Happy Friday, everyone. It is Friday, Friday, Friday. And I just want to say, down, 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 down the witch's road. Of course, I've been watching Agatha all alone. Um, After the hurricane and all of my travels and different things, I was not feeling my best, so I had to do a little binge watching of TV. So I kind of binge watched that show, and I love that song. I love them singing that song. And it just made me think of a couple of things on this Friday day. A lot of people have fallen in love with witches, right? There's been a lot of movies lately about witches and witchcraft and, glorifying them in this light and, making it cool to be witchy and then yet and still not cool and stuff like that, but interesting. And it brings to light things like the Salem witch trials. I can only imagine that at one point, being a witch and having the knowledge of what the witches had that they had back then, the knowledge of the earth, the knowledge of how time worked, and knowledge of science, and mainly witches were women in a time where women weren't supposed to know things, right? So having knowledge of herbs and how they heal, having knowledge of the moon cycles and how it impacts people, or having knowledge of a simple scientific experiment that you can do, like you can take someone's urine and actually, tell what kind of disease they have by drinking it and stuff like that, or smelling it and things of that nature. Having that kind of knowledge was evil and taboo. And as your neighborhood scientist and herbalist and witchy girl, I would have been considered a witch by those times. And in this time, I have been called a witch. And that's okay with me because I understand that witches aren't necessarily bad. And now there's people calling themselves witches for lots of different reasons. And they call themselves witches because they make candles or because they don't believe in traditional religion, whatever. But when we go back to the history of witches and the things that they did, yes, some people cast spells. Yes, some people put curses on people, but they do that in the church every day. Nobody calls them a witch. But I digress. Being witchy from the standpoint of being a scientist is a very good thing. And being witchy from the standpoint of being a scientist has led to a lot of discoveries in this United States that were actually discoveries made by women. And the women could not take credit for them because men were the ruling powers. Women were then killed and prosecuted for being witches and things like that, when in reality, they were just brilliant. Think about it, okay? That's what I want you to think about. Accept the fact that you may have been called a witch in a previous life just because you were brilliant. Just because you had knowledge of how the world works, of how science works, how herbs work, how the body works. And then people who don't know become afraid of that. Now today, we have those same types of things happening. And not just with women, but anyone who has knowledge and has knowledge that someone else does not possess, you get labeled certain things. Sometimes you get labeled as aggressive. Sometimes you get labeled as Mr. or Mrs. Know-it-all. Sometimes you get labeled as difficult to work with, impatient, right? Because you can't wait for people to catch up. Sometimes people have things and they know things and they get because of it, because somebody else wants to have that and know that and be the first person to share it, right? Same thing that happened back then during the Salem witch trials is happening now in different ways. Now, I have seen people say stuff like the Salem witch trials were put on by witches. Not all, right? There were people who were persecuted for just being smart, brilliant people, connected with nature, connected with how the earth actually heals people, right? Connected with the stars, with the moon, with the sun, with the ocean, with the life cycles, connected with general knowledge of things. And of course, some of these people may have been spiritually gifted, which is a whole nother side of things. But most of them had the ability to make potions and things that healed, that cured, that also did bad things because they knew what these different plants did. We call that medicine today, pharmacy, right? All of what I'm saying brings about the point that I believe is most important, is that we tend to label people as something without having a full understanding. And I like what I saw on one movie that I watched, and they said at one point things that were told to us and given to us was part of something. And at the time when those people were talking about those things, other people thought they were crazy. And now people realize, oh wait, they were on to something. Can you imagine how many people thought the invention of a light bulb was bonkers? The invention of a plane, insane? How many people thought the invention of a car was the worst thing ever? Or even the telephone, calling someone? Who thinks that's going to work? There would have had to be so many people to not agree with those things. But to the people who were definitely positive this was going to work, they had to have this kind of faith, and they had to go around being ridiculed until they actually were proven to be right. Hopefully, this whole message encourages someone who feels a little different, who's kind of been called witchy and other kinds of things, who has an idea that other people don't seem to think will ever work, and encourage you to go on out and be your witchy self. And by that, I mean be different, be unique, be you, right? And create whatever it is that your heart's desire. And one day other people will catch on. Bye.